New year, new mechanicking. Here we are on the Volvo S80 again, and I'm changing the alternator for the second time. Changed the power steering pump 3 times, but got a remanufactured alternator because I didn't trust getting some cheap Chinese one. It's a Bosch, and the company I got it from in Plymouth, really great reviews, great customer service. Put it on, started putting out 17.8 volts. Okay, so as you can see, brand new alternator is fitted, correct part, fitted fine. Resting voltage is 12.3 volts. You can come and start the vehicle. Oh, now it's working. Okay. No, there we go. 17 volts. Messed around with it, took all the earths off the car, main earth strap, cleaned everything up I could, fiddled around with the LIN connector. This is a little local area network that runs from the car's ECU to tell the alternator what voltage to put out. Used contact cleaner, cleaned everything up, and then I got it down to about 14.878 volts. Still not right. It knackered the battery, so off to Halfords, brand new battery. Got back onto the supplier. He said he was going to send a new alternator out, although he didn't suspect it could possibly be the alternator. That got lost in the post, returned damaged. This new alternator has turned up today, so we're going to see. I'm not changing the voltage regulator on the own, I'm changing the whole thing. And we're going to see if that puts out too high voltage. So there we are, that's where we're at. So last time I took the power steering pump off, if my camera woman just points down here, not undoing the hoses but just removing it and leaving it up here. I've seen a guy on YouTube manage to get the alternator in and out without removing the power steering pump. We're going to see if I manage that. If not, more bolts to take out. It's actually on cars, the alternator is probably the easiest to change because you've got such good access. Once you get your serpentine belt off, we changed that, new tensioner, so the new thermostat, new glow plugs, new engine mounts, £2,000 car, already eating up the big bucks, but there we go. Yeah, so basically it's 3 bolts and then loosen these bolts way down here, which is the AC compressor, and then you can pull it out. Or not, as we will see. So these have to come out just enough, which you're never quite sure how much that just enough is. You don't want to fully remove them because you don't want to remove the AC compressor. And the AC compressor was new in 2020. So although it's an old car, it's had an awful lot of money spent on it with the older owner. I only used Volvo. Let's see if that is loose enough. Oh no, we've failed because that's going to be a 13. Got to take the positive terminal off of the alternator, having already taken the negative terminal off the battery. Why didn't I do that before? because now it's all really loose. It's not loose the floor. Right, let's see now. The answer is no, you can't. You know why? Because the guy's high pressure line on his power steering pump wasn't there, it was there. And that, hold on. I'll come back to you and see where we're at in a bit. That's where the alternator came out. We did have to loosen the power steering pump after all because my high pressure line is in the right place but the wrong place, if you know what I mean. And although no one's ever done this in any of the tutorials and Haynes manual doesn't say anything about this, what I've decided to do is take some sandpaper there and sand all of the connection points where the alternator will bolt to the engine block to eliminate the risk of there being a bad earth. And not only have I done that, but then I've used this rather expensive stuff, which is mass airflow cleaner. Now, unlike brake cleaner or even contact cleaner, yes, you can use that on your mass airflow sensor, but they will leave a residue. This won't. So I'm using this instead of brake cleaner or even electrical contact cleaner because I know it's as clean as it's going to get. So I've washed all of the any dust from the sandpaper away from that. As I said previously, I've done all of the other earth points on the car, including the battery earth terminal, got in there, did this, and even the positive cables. We'll just come around here. So again, positive battery cable there. This under here, if you like to look in there, it doesn't look that clean. But this cable here comes up from the alternator to that stud, and then that cable there goes off to the positive terminal on the battery. That was really corroded, so I've had that off, sanded, cleaned, everything. These ones down here, there's a big hefty earth strap down there, and that wing taken off, cleaned, and everything else. So we've got great grounding on this car now. This alternator here, remanufactured Bosch unit. It does have a different Bosch regulator, different to the original that was on the car, different to the other remanufactured one. The reason why this is all happening, by the way, is because the alternator just had given up the ghost. I could have just replaced the freewheel clutch, which had gone, but what really screwed it up was having the entire contents of the power steering fluid reservoir dumped inside it. That's because of yours truly. He replaced the power steering pump when he didn't need replacing because he'd taken the car to a local garage because he could hear a kind of a bearing sound, and they took everything off and spun everything and pulled and tugged and said no, it's fine. And I collected the car and thought it's not fine, and this noise I felt was coming from the power steering pump. If you'd like to come in again and have a look at this. So I was holding that with my two fingers like this, and you could feel a terrible, horrendous vibration through it. So I changed it for the cheapest Chinesian one on eBay, 52 quid. And that promptly put a load of iron filings into my power steering fluid system. So I took that off and sent that back to eBay, learnt my mistake, and then flushed the whole system out again. So I've gone through loads of central hydraulic fluid. And then after doing all of that messing around, I bought a decent 5-year warranted, far more expensive power steering pump. But while that was on order, I thought, I don't know if it is the power steering pump. I'm going to put the original Volvo one back on, which I did. And the noise was still there. But what I'll do, if you come again, look in here, there's an 8mm fastener just goes in there. That's a steel fastener into an aluminium housing, and I over tightened it and stripped the threads, but I didn't know at the time. I thought it was all right. I thought, what if it's not all right? Hey, look, there's another one on order. I went out for a few drives, it was fine. I came back home, full block. Right, that high pressure 120 bar blew off, emptied the reservoir under pressure into the top of the alternator. So that really screwed the alternator up. So then the new power steering pump arrived. So off with the old Volvo one that was knackered, on with the new one, cleaned the alternator up best I could, off to the garage. It told me originally everything was alright. Can you change the idler and tensioner? Why sir, that's fine, I've checked it already. Can you change the idler and the tensioner? Okay then. Changed that, showed me the old part. Oh look, the bearing's gone in. Was that cause of the noise? Maybe it was. No, it wasn't, because when I collected the car, he said that's sounding terrible. I think it's your power steering pump, sir. It's making a racket. I thought, oh no, another power steering pump do I need? I thought, no, I'm going to get an alternator. Got the alternator, fitted the alternator regulator, over voltage. That's where we're at. Tomorrow it's going into a Volvo specialist, if I can get this done on time, to find out what's causing the engine vibration. I'm suspecting it's the gearbox torque mount that was fitted, because it's a cheap aftermarket part. What I'm learning here, guys, don't get the cheapest aftermarket parts, but you don't really want to get original Volvo parts, because it's a 20-year-old car that costs £2,000, but you want to keep it going at the same time. But maybe I do just need to bite the bullet, and instead of spending about 150 quid on an alternator, spend 475 for an original Bosch. I will come back to you when we've finished. Well, as you can see, I'm having to film my own content because the camera lady's gone in because it's too cold. In fact, it's actually just 4 degrees centigrade. New alternator is in, everything is, as you can see, running really quiet and smoothly. However, and I am aware that, you know, modern ECU controlled voltage regulators, of which this is one of the first actually, vary the alternator output voltage on not just load but also air temperature. So a colder air temperature, colder battery will take more charge, more voltage. It's currently putting out between 14.6 and 14.9 volts. Now if I fully load the car up, both heated seats on, rear window, fog lights, main beam, dip beam, the whole shebang, it will come down to 14.2, 14.3 volts. My issue is that yesterday on the way back from a trip, I had the power system service urgent message come on, because it was putting out like 17 volts. When I first fitted the first alternator, the one that we've just changed, that's what it put out like straight away. Now, if you see here, this little wire here is a very simple network. It's a single wire, it runs about 9,000 baud, and it sends data between the alternator regulator and the ECU. Now, that was corroded a little, and fiddling around with it, cleaning up on the first alternator solved that issue, and it went back down to 14.6, 14.7, 14.8, which for my thinking was still a bit high. I would be expecting sort of 14.2, 14.3, 14.4, 14.5, that's the sort of range. Unfortunately, I haven't got any data from the old alternator. What I do know is the previous owner of the vehicle only had a brand new Volvo branded battery fitted in 2021. Now today is obviously January 2025, that hasn't lasted very long. Now all the data I can find about this car says it needs a flooded lead acid battery, not an AGM. But 14.7, 14.8, 14.9 volts is the ideal charging range of an AGM battery. So maybe it does need an AGM battery. Maybe my ECU's at full. I mean, as I say, I'm not really too bothered about the higher side of 14 volts, but I am worried when it's like 15, 16, 17, 17.8 volts. That's why I didn't want to change the voltage regulator alone. Some people have said it's because I'm using a remanufactured alternator. Now, this alternator here has a different voltage regulator, serial number, like the FOOM number as I call it. It's like F00M, and then it's a Bosch part. So that's brand new. There's so much of the componentry inside is brand new. The only bit that's not brand new is basically the stator windings. So it's, you know, been thoroughly taken apart, thoroughly tested. So I don't think my issue is so much the alternator, is it the voltage regulator? Because the voltage regulator that came off the car, the brushes were really worn down. 19-year-old alternator, obviously, of course it's going to be 138,000 miles. But the FOOM number, as I call it, was very much a different part number to this. I can't even find any reference of that online, but I have found a chap, a Volvo specialist chap, that changed his voltage regulator alone on his thing, and he explains how to test the alternator. I've done all of that, that's fine. And I've made a note of his part number, which is on eBay for 53 quid, Bosch original, which covers this alternator and this ECU. But so does that part number. So I might just start randomly buying voltage regulators and seeing. So the main issue is that I don't want to be driving a long way from home. I'm just going to check that the yeah, see, it's fine, it's not. I don't want to be driving a long way from home and suddenly the car decides to put out 18 volts nearly, and that'd be a right pain in the arse, because that will literally fry the battery. That's what killed the other battery off. I've just spent, you know, a fortune on a USA 5-year warranty new battery. You know, electrical things with cars, eh? The other thing that I've noticed is that my stereo, the lights on it stopped working because they're CAN bus controlled, believe it or not. The reason why they're CAN bus controlled and don't take the feed off of the radio is so that the dimmer switch for your instrument cluster and everything else, which is CAN bus controlled, does its thing. Now that did suddenly come back to life the other day, and because I've disconnected the battery, now it's not working again. And the vanity mirror light isn't working on the passenger side. But when that works, the vanity mirror lights as well. I'm sure that the vanity mirror lights are not CAN bus controlled anyway. So just like my previous Volvo to this, there could be the beginnings of some electrical problems, which I think is really what let these cars down sometimes. So there we go. I will take it to this Volvo specialist tomorrow that's been booked into for about 2 months, and say, as well as the vibration, which you can't even tell is happening, because I had all the engine mounts changed, you see, as well, but that's made it worse. So I don't know. So he's going to look into that. I'll say, can you look into my alternator problem as well? Anyway, there's the Volvo saga.